one of the biggest controversies in the Naruto fandom, one that you'll see erupt into war every once in a while on social media, is the issue of Itachi and the Uchiha massacre. A sizable portion of the fandom argues that Itachi's act of exterminating his own clan was, for obvious reasons, pure evil and irredeemable. By now, I'm sure you've seen the fan art of Itachi pulling a Uchiha child from his hiding place, emblematic of the side of the massacre that we know happened but did not directly see. On the other hand, many other Naruto fans emphasize the difficulty of Itachi's situation and assert that Itachi had no good options in the matter, ultimately deciding to make the best choice for the common good. Both sides make good points, and the reason for the dispute may lie on Kishimoto's shoulders, particularly in his choice regarding who comments on the Uchiha massacre and Itachi's life. There are only a handful of characters who discuss Itachi's actions with knowledge of the full story: Naruto, Sasuke, Obito, Danzo, and the reanimated Hokage. Characters like Obito and Danzo only discuss Itachi from their warped perceptions as antagonists, so their interpretations of events are obviously not to be treated as unbiased or correct. The other characters, however, are protagonists, and therefore speak with more moral authority. It is these characters who constantly praise Itachi, which I believe is largely responsible for fans coming away with the impression that Itachi did nothing wrong. However, as I explored my Hokage video, the former shadows exist to demonstrate not just the positive elements of Konoha and the Will of Fire, but also the problems in the village that resulted from their various mistakes. Konoha is obviously the most at fault for the Uchiha massacre, far more than Itachi himself, such that the opinions the Hokage hold about Itachi in part reflect the toxic views that they still cling to. This is true whether you are talking about Hashirama, who praises Itachi for doing something similar to his murder of Madara, which caused a lot of problems for the world, or Tobirama, who nearly celebrated the news of the massacre, or Hiruzen, who praises Itachi's maturity far more than he should have. The Hokage's perspectives of Itachi should be taken with a large grain of salt, same as Obito or Danzo. That leaves just Naruto and Sasuke to weigh in, and on a surface level, it's unsurprising that neither character engages in sustained criticism of Itachi. Naruto, the person that he is, would of course recognize the difficulty of Itachi's position, his true goals, and the important influence he had on others, which would have certainly redeemed him in Naruto's eyes. And Sasuke? No one loved Itachi more than Sasuke. By the end of the story, Sasuke models his behavior directly on Itachi, operating as the shadow protector of not just Konoha, but the world. And that's also alright. It makes sense for the Hokage to recognize the good Itachi did for the village, for Naruto to be forgiving, and for Sasuke to still look up to Itachi. The problem is, that's it. No one else, save for Kakashi, Yamato, and the Konoha elders, know about what Itachi did. And none of them really speak on it either, so there isn't anyone to emphasize the elephant in the room, that Itachi's actions in committing a mass murder is a bad thing. I feel like Kishimoto may have structured things this way purposefully, first showing the obvious tragedy of the Uchiha massacre through OG Sasuke's perspective, and then giving the context behind Itachi's actions afterwards during Shippuden to balance things out. But since most of the perspectives we get of Itachi after we learn the truth about the massacre are largely to praise or absolve him, the result is a lasting image that Itachi's actions were justified, and a lack of balance in a display of pro and anti-Itachi viewpoints that causes readers to misconstrue how we are meant to feel about Itachi. Except that isn't quite the case. There is in fact a definitive struggle over Itachi's life and truth that takes into account the full context of the Itachi dispute, and occurs at the very end of the story, the battle between Naruto and Sasuke itself. And this conflict is shaped by the most important perspective on Itachi of all, Itachi's himself. Everything I said about the lack of balance in showing opposing perspectives of Itachi's actions and Kishimoto's culpability for the debate would be correct if not for the fact that Itachi is the most anti-Uchiha massacre character in the entire story. The person responsible for the massacre straight up says that it never should have happened during his final confrontation in the story, the Uchiha brothers' fight against Kabuto. During this fight, Kabuto tries to bring Sasuke over to his side by comparing himself to Itachi, who he knows Sasuke idolizes and follows. And Itachi agrees. He and Kabuto are quite similar in the way they constantly lie to and manipulate others, which is why Itachi advises Sasuke to stay as far away from Kabuto as possible. Kabuto, a war orphan stripped of his identity, by years of mind-breaking service as a spy for Konoha, believed that he could only fill his emptiness by absorbing everything around him, a plan he stole from his mentor Orochimaru, who faced similar struggles. But Itachi explains from experience that those who try to do everything themselves will inevitably fail. And looking into his history, he's right. Itachi chose to destroy his own clan for two main reasons. He wanted to protect the village as one who thought a lot like a Hokage, and more importantly, he was offered the opportunity to protect his younger brother Sasuke's life by agreeing to it. Itachi chose what was most important to him, and from a certain perspective, it's understandable. He was burdened with an insane responsibility for a 13-year-old child and chose what was most important to him. Except Itachi made his choice without attempting to work with anyone to solve the problem. He resigned himself to a false dichotomy, just as much as the fanbase has done, because he saw a situation with no way out that he could achieve on his own. This was his first failure, as he recounts to Naruto and Kabuto that no human is perfect, and all people need the assistance of others. Those who become too powerful risk losing themselves and are blind to what they may become. I think that the death of Shisui had an underrated impact on Itachi's mental state, his disdain for the clan, and his eventual decision. Any path to salvation for Itachi would have required working with others, and after Shisui ended his own life, Itachi had no one he was willing to rely on anymore. Itachi came instead to display the faults of the powerful. Overconfident in his abilities, Itachi failed to properly assess the capabilities of himself and those around him. Perhaps Itachi's original framing of the massacre to Sasuke, that he was merely testing his capabilities, was correct. But rather than it being his capability to kill, it was his capability to shoulder everything himself, something he was completely unable to do. Let's for a second just go over Itachi's entire plan. It was simple. 1. Pretend to be a criminal. 2. Destroy his clan and stop the coup. 3. Spy on Obito for the village. And lastly 4. Distantly manipulate his brother for years through lies, deceptions, and psychological attacks in the form of 2 uses of Tsukiyomi that showed a child images of his parents being murdered on repeat, with the end goal of tricking said brother into becoming an agent of justice to kill Itachi and eventually become the hero of the village, all without anyone ever finding out, even after his own death. I'm starting to think that this might have been a bad plan. There was obviously no way that Itachi was going to be able to control all of the many variables involved in this plan, and manipulate them to his ideal outcome alone. This was doomed to fail. And what did it result in? Sasuke, the brother he attempted to control, unsurprisingly found out about his ruse from someone in Obito who did not have his best interests in mind, and became a globally recognized terrorist whose sole goal was to destroy Konoha Village. Itachi was driven by his human emotions, which caused him to make human mistakes. His love of his brother caused him to spare Sasuke, and his guilt for destroying his clan caused him to hurt Sasuke. It is not a coincidence that Itachi's plan caused the exact opposite of the 2 goals he sought to accomplish through the Uchiha massacre. It is the natural result of his contradictory and poor decision-making, and evidence that his plan was mistaken. Itachi boasts to Sasuke during their fateful battle that humans are bound by their individual knowledge and awareness, but he clearly fell victim to the same shortcomings. He allowed Obito to fool him into believing that he was Madara, and Obito successfully hid his powers from Itachi, a fact which ended up unraveling all Itachi's plans when his post-mortem Amaterasu failed. One of the first things Edo Itachi does is comment that he knew far less than he believed he did, and it seems that Itachi lived in a fantasy of his own, just like those he lectured. And when he is eventually greeted with the news that Sasuke had gone far off the path that Itachi had set out for him, Itachi could do no more than reflect on the fact that he had failed so badly that he had permanently tainted his own ability to sway Sasuke from the side of evil. Even still, Itachi's failures can only be fully understood in the context of the various themes that Kishimoto explores in Naruto. Itachi's first mistake was that he tried to do everything on his own, lying to himself and the people around him to manipulate them. As Itachi lets Kabuto know, those who aren't honest with themselves cannot be trusted by others, and cannot come to cooperate with them, a fact that Itachi had ample experience with, considering that even as a child, he operated alone and wasn't fully understood or trusted by those around him. Itachi's personality is in stark contrast to Naruto, whose constant display of his good nature allows others to trust and follow him. And Itachi's second mistake was that he never looked at Sasuke and recognized him for who he was as a person, which was just as significant. One of Naruto's most fundamental themes is seeking recognition from people around you, and recognizing them in return. Sasuke throughout his entire life sought nothing but validation. As a kid, he sought validation from his father, who ignored him in favor of Itachi's genius, and Itachi, who always pushed him away in favor of dealing with his clandestine actions on behalf of the clan and village alone. After Itachi put him through the Uchiha massacre, Sasuke simply sought new validation, wanting Itachi to recognize him now, not as a brother, but as an avenger and the one who would eventually destroy him. It became Sasuke's obsession. Itachi was the only thing he could think of when Kakashi asked him about his hopes and dreams. He almost fails the bell test because he was obsessed with moving forward alone to catch up with Itachi, and even as he believes himself to be dying after fighting Haku, his first concern is his failure to defeat Itachi. Sasuke's obsession with Itachi kneecaps him at every turn early on, and nowhere is this more apparent than his clash with Gaara, where Sasuke first starts to go down the wrong path. Sasuke's determination to surpass Itachi in that battle causes him to activate his Chidori one time past the limit that Kakashi had established for him. Kakashi explained to Sasuke that if he chose to use the Chidori a third time, the curse mark may activate in response. Not only that, Kakashi remarked that it would mark the end of Sasuke's maturity, and Kakashi wasn't just being dramatic. Sasuke in this moment embraced the darkness of his goal, choosing Orochimaru's curse to achieve greater power himself. Sasuke's later decision to leave the village, give himself over to Orochimaru, and risk sacrificing his body to achieve more power is simply a logical extension of the choice he made while fighting Gaara. In fact, Sasuke also made this life-changing decision because of a second run-in with Itachi, who foolishly magnified the trauma of the Uchiha massacre and made Sasuke even more desperate to pursue any path to quick and easy power. Itachi made the grave mistake of not just re-traumatizing Sasuke, but by doing it as an afterthought. Itachi pretended to completely blow up Sasuke and focus on Naruto and the Nine-Tailed Fox instead. Itachi had no way of knowing that Sasuke was already starting to feel inferior to Naruto because of the growth that he had shown against Gaara. Seeing his rival gain the attention of his life goal was deeply embarrassing for Sasuke, and it was one of the largest contributing factors to his decision to leave the village for Orochimaru. Itachi's actions to stoke hatred in his brother were done so because Itachi never considered how his actions would actually affect Sasuke. No, it was actually even worse, as Itachi believed that he would be able to predict how Sasuke will respond and control him, failing to understand who Sasuke was the entire way, because he always kept him at a distance. Sasuke was not like Itachi. He could not see the same things that Itachi did, and effortlessly stay on the path of good. Robbed of his family and enraged, Sasuke was unable to look forward to the future like his teammates or Itachi, and had his eyes set on rectifying the past, a distinction that sealed his fate. We all know just how pivotal Itachi's actions are to shaping Sasuke, but sometimes it's underrated just how deeply Itachi's influence permeates Sasuke. Sasuke's cold behavior at the beginning of Shippuden is like looking at a bad impression of Itachi. When he refuses to kill, it is to spite Itachi. When he meets Naruto for the first time in years, he alludes to Itachi. When fighting Orochimaru, all Sasuke can think about is how much he hates Orochimaru for reminding him of Itachi. When he forms the Heavy, all he cares about is, you guessed it, Itachi. So much that it pisses Deidara off to the point of blowing himself up just to not be ignored. Even after he defeats Itachi and learns the truth about the Uchiha, Sasuke still lives his life obsessed with gaining Itachi's validation. He decides to destroy the village for Itachi. He kills Danzo to avenge Itachi. And his plan to usurp the Hokage and run the world from the shadows is what he believed was in the spirit of Itachi. Itachi quickly recognizes that his failure to look at Sasuke and decision to instead manipulate him caused him to plow off the track Itachi set up for him in disastrous fashion. Then, having seen all of his life work come undone, and having met the current Naruto and Sasuke, Itachi came to a new conclusion. Itachi came to believe that if he had just worked with Sasuke to stop the Uchiha clan, he may have been able to find a third path where no one had to die. This is the crux of the debate regarding Itachi's decisions. Did Itachi have another choice? And Itachi's answer, the one that Kishimoto wants us to accept, is yes. I understand many being skeptical of the idea that Sasuke could have realistically done anything to stop the massacre. He was like 8 after all, but I believe that Kishimoto purposefully explores the Uchiha massacre in a way that makes it clear that it could have been avoided. He emphasizes that Hiruzen wanted to make peace, and that Itachi's mission for the village was simply to stall the coup until they could come to an agreement. But Itachi gave up on that task, instead deciding to take the burden on himself and massacre the clan personally. And even then, he could not do that alone, enlisting the help of Obito to complete the deed, a decision that would be his undoing when Obito used his knowledge of the situation to turn Sasuke to the side of evil? What if, instead of relying on Obito, Itachi had instead relied on Sasuke? Could Sasuke have simply stalled for a little more time? That seems reasonable to me. Sasuke wasn't just any old child. He was the child of the Uchiha clan's leader, Uchiha Fugaku. Might Fugaku have decided to nix or at least delay his plans for the coup if he learned both his sons would oppose him? Or if both sons had worked together to change his mind? Maybe. We've seen other young characters in the story, like Naruto, Inari, and Nagato, have very outsized impacts on the adults around them, so why would Sasuke be any different than those examples? A key idea in Naruto is that the older generation often shares the same hopes and dreams of the younger generation, such that working with the younger generation breaks them out of their cynicism and reawakens them to new and much more optimistic possibilities. Itachi ends up eventually making the choice to trust Naruto, precisely because when asking him if he would protect the village or Sasuke when it came down to it, Naruto asserted that he would never fail to choose both. If Itachi had similar resolve to never give up, if he had the mere support of his younger brother to energize and uplift him, just as Naruto's friends gave him strength, then perhaps Itachi could have endured long enough to find a peaceful solution to the planned coup, and Sasuke really would have saved the day. The question of whether Sasuke could have realistically helped stop the massacre, in a real-world sense, is as important to me as the question of whether I could realistically do a Rasengan, or realistically become the president as a 15-year-old. It doesn't matter. What matters is whether it would have been possible in the world Kishimoto created, and there are many good reasons why Itachi's comment on Sasuke isn't a ridiculous notion, and instead is deeply grounded in the spirit and themes of Naruto. I think the truth lies here. Itachi was not justified in executing the Uchiha massacre. Though the situation was dire, he made the wrong choices because he refused to work with anyone and magnified the damaging effect of his choices by refusing to recognize Sasuke, causing his own downfall after he died, and lost the ability to control everything from the shadows. Even still, this does not make Itachi simply evil, because Itachi's story does not end with his failures alone. It ends with his redemption. Just as Itachi's mistakes reflect the major themes of Naruto, so does this aspect of his life. Naruto is just as much about achieving understanding, redemption, and forgiveness as it is any of the other themes that I mentioned. Itachi was wrong to not see Sasuke for who he was, but we as the audience would also be wrong if we did not try to understand Itachi and why he did what he did. Itachi believed himself to be stuck between a rock and a hard place. He earnestly wanted to protect his home, and he was desperate to save some part of his family as well. He was scared about what would happen to Sasuke in a village with leadership that was hostile to the Uchiha, and sought to create a scenario where it was politically impossible for the village higher-ups to act against him. Everything that Itachi did was due to his own sense of misguided love and justice, which makes him no different than Nagato or Obito, other characters who adamantly believe themselves to be doing the right thing while clearly harming others. If they can be redeemed, so can Itachi, and Itachi put in a lot of work to earn that redemption. First, he used Kodomo Matsukami to break himself free of Kabuto's control and fight back against the Akatsuki. This only happened because he trusted Naruto with Shisui's eye, and even if he only did so with the intention to further control Sasuke at first, he also abandoned that plan as well when he realized that he needed to start treating Sasuke as an equal and respect his individuality. And precisely because Itachi learned from his earlier failures in life, he is also the person who helps Naruto remember an important lesson about trusting in his comrades before departing, because he realized himself that he needed to leave Sasuke to Naruto. Itachi then defeats Kabuto and undoes Dedo Tensei, the single most impactful contribution of anyone in the early war outside of Naruto. Before he disappears, Itachi also makes sure to apologize to Sasuke, finally being honest with him and showing Sasuke unconditional love, because it was something that Sasuke had been desperately seeking his entire life from others, most notably Itachi. Itachi's act of revealing the full truth to Sasuke without political machinations or concerns for what Sasuke might do in the future, simply as a token of his respect and deep love, would result in Sasuke ending his plans to destroy Konoha and temporarily siding with the Allied Shinobi forces, summoning the former Hokage, who were major factors in the war. When Sasuke saw the real Itachi and made peace with his past, he finally reached a place where he could stop and think about the future and what he wanted from it, something he hadn't done before. And when he finally heard that Itachi believed in him, he also realized that he could change the world. His answer, of course, was revolution, a dangerous revolution that threatened to unbalance the shinobi world that he and Naruto had just saved. Yet even here, Itachi's actions help Sasuke see the light and reconcile with Naruto. One interesting thing that I discovered in my many readings of Naruto is that the final battle between Naruto and Sasuke is also a battle over Itachi's will and what would win out, the past Itachi that Sasuke follows, or the final Itachi that Naruto follows. Sasuke fought to pursue a more complete version of Itachi's vision, gaining immortality, cutting off every last bond while sparing no one, and controlling the entire world from the shadows. Naruto, on the other side, had long embraced what Itachi had evolved to become, coming to love himself, trust others, and achieve a resolve to never give up in the face of adversity. And as the Sage of the Six Paths foresaw, because Sasuke and Naruto both knew love and understood each other's circumstances, because they had similar influences like Itachi, they were able to do what none of their predecessors could do before them, and reconcile with one another. Itachi showed Sasuke a love that Sasuke was able to connect with his feelings for Naruto, understanding what unconditional love was because of Itachi, and realizing that it was possible for someone not related to him by blood to express the same strength of feelings and understanding. Itachi's truth in Naruto had won out, proving that his past self embodied by Sasuke was incorrect. Long before this climatic battle, when Itachi faced off against Kabuto, he expressed that his failures in life had taught him that humans must be capable of forgiving themselves for what they could not do and making up for those shortcomings with the help of others. Itachi's entire life, he wasted time regretting what he could not do, but once he recognized that he could rely on others to help him and forgave himself for his failures, Itachi did everything that he possibly could do to make up for his mistakes in the very short time that he was reanimated. He recognized his failures, owned up to them, and he did what he could to help Sasuke and Naruto avoid his missteps, impacting their development more than almost any other character. That's why the Izanagi is such a fitting final jutsu for someone like Itachi to use. It's a jutsu all about confronting reality, accepting the truth, and changing yourself. Itachi succeeded in changing himself, and in doing so, Itachi undeniably changed the world. That's what makes Itachi's situation so tricky. His failures are so incredibly apparent, but just as apparent are the features of him that make him such an influential person as well. But that duality in his nature is simply what makes Itachi, just like many of Naruto's antagonists, so fascinating to explore. If Itachi is so much like the other antagonists in Naruto, then why do we have such a serious interpretational problem with him? I think that it's partially because Kishimoto does maybe his best job of humanizing an antagonist with Itachi, and partially because of the lack of balance when it comes to examining different interpretations of Itachi's life prior to Naruto and Sasuke settling the matter. It's the exact opposite of the Obito problem, where some fans have difficulty seeing him as a hero because we spent most of our time seeing him as a villain. Itachi starts off as a villain, but he ends up as a hero, so a lot of fans kind of forget his earlier characterization, which was all still accurate in its own way. While the truth about Itachi was revealed to us to make us sympathize more with his actions, were we to take an absolutist stance that Itachi was right and the village alone was to blame, wouldn't our position essentially be the same as Sasuke's after he learned the truth? And is that not the exact mindset that we are meant to rebuke? A mindset that literally set Sasuke on the path to commit atrocities? Knowing what you know about Naruto and the story Kishimoto wrote about peace and understanding, about defeating hatred and breaking cycles and fate, and about making the impossible reality, does Kishimoto seem like the sort of writer who would write a story where a genocide is supposed to be viewed as unquestionably justified? I think it's antithetical to Naruto to see the Uchiha massacre as that. I think that Kishimoto makes that clear through the Naruto and Sasuke dynamic and through the totality of his work. And by that same token, I think it is abundantly clear that we are not meant to view Itachi as irredeemably evil as well. We are supposed to recognize who he is as a person and come to realize that he wasn't evil, he was simply human, just like all of Naruto's antagonists. So Itachi supporters, do not stop pointing out that Itachi faced a hard choice at 13, and Itachi detractors, do not stop posting that image of Itachi dragging out the Uchiha boy. Please keep it up, because that's how we're supposed to view Itachi, from both lenses. It's the whole truth about Itachi that must be fully recognized to understand him, and it's exactly what Itachi would beg us to do.